She faced his cruelty for 10 long years, but discover how karma delivered a heartwarming revenge. Sarah stood at the counter of Betty's diner, pouring coffee into the chipped mugs held by weary hands. A smile painted on her face, while inside, her heart ached. 10 long years of battling her ex-husband Mark had worn her down. Each cruel jab he threw at her somehow sharper than the last. To everyone in Cedar Ridge, he was a powerful businessman. But to Sarah, he was simply the man who had tried to break her spirit. Each court date was a fresh wound, every insult a bitter reminder of his arrogance. Still, she pushed through, fueled by love for her 2 children, Emma and Jake, who deserved a mother they could look up to, not someone crumpled inside the shadows of another's cruelty. In the warm embrace of the diner, the hum of small-town chatter wrapped around her, offering solace. This community was her lifeline, a motley crew of patrons who knew her struggles and stood behind her, cheering on the single mom who took life one day at a time. Among them was Bill, a local veteran known for his kind heart and gentle jesting. Their friendship blossomed amidst the daily grind, filling her heart with warmth she hadn't felt in years. But as winter melted into spring, something inside Sarah began to bloom too. Inspired by her late grandmother's beloved recipes, she dreamed of opening a small bakery. The thought flickered like a candle in a dark room, illuminating her path to healing. Could she do it? Would she dare to confront Mark with this bold step forward? With little more than hope and willpower, she set to work, burning the midnight oil, trying out each recipe, resulting in a tantalizing assortment of cookies and pastries that reminded her of childhood. However, just as she felt the warmth of her dream heating up, Mark's attacks intensified. Whispers started in the town talking about her so-called poor choices in leaving him, and what kind of mother would chase ambitions over her kids. The murmurs pierced her heart, calling into question everything she'd worked for. Would her dream crumble under the weight of his vindictiveness? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The annual Cedar Ridge Fair was approaching, and Sarah's heart raced with both excitement and dread. This was her chance, her moment to showcase her goodies at the baking competition. But Mark was there as well, a shadow lurking, intent on undermining her. The fair was a whirlwind of laughter and fun, but as Sarah clutched her plate of pastries, the tension twisted in her gut. As she took center stage, ready to confront her past, doubt clawed at her. Would this stand light the path for her future, or lead her deeper into Mark's darkness? With the crowd watching, anticipation thick in the air, Sarah felt a flicker of hope. The stakes had never been higher. Could she finally break free? The outcome was uncertain, but she stood poised between the whispers of her past and the promise of tomorrow, ready to honor the strength inside her and reclaim her story. With every heartbeat, Sarah could feel the weight of the crowd's gaze. The sounds of laughter and carnival music faded into a dull hush as she stepped forward, clutching the tray of pastries like a shield. The bright colors of the fair seemed to contrast sharply with the storm swirling inside her mind. She had dreamed of this moment, but now the reality was more daunting than she had imagined. As she approached the judge's table, she locked eyes with Mark across the space. His smug expression sent a shiver down her spine. He stood confidently with his arms crossed, flanked by a couple of local businessmen. She could hear their whispers, the slight snickers that seemed to mock her. But Sarah took a deep breath, reminding herself that she was here for more than just the competition. She was here to reclaim her voice. First up, we have Sarah Thompson, the MC announced, breaking the silence. The crowd seemed to perk up at the mention of her name, and Sarah felt a flicker of warmth spreading through her heart. She moved closer to the judges, presenting her treats with care. They glistened under the afternoon sun: chocolate chip cookies, lemon bars, and cinnamon rolls, all made from her grandmother's cherished recipes. What inspired these creations? One of the judges asked, eyeing the treats appreciatively. Sarah hesitated for just a moment, weighing her words carefully. My grandmother taught me that baking is not just about food, it's about love and memories. Each bite carries a piece of my story, she said, her voice steady and clear. The truth felt like armor, and she could see some nodding in the audience. As she spoke, the voices in her head began to quiet. She watched the judges taste her pastries, their smiles widening with every bite. The tension began to ease. I was in control. For just a moment, Sarah allowed herself to hope that maybe she could create a life without Mark's shadows looming over her decisions. But then she noticed Mark moving through the throng, darting glances over at the judges, whispering something to one of the businessmen beside him. Sarah's stomach churned as she tried to shake off the dread clawing at her insides. She couldn't let him ruin this moment for her. As the judges continued their deliberation, Sarah forged ahead. She let her passion pour out in her chatter with the crowd, sharing little anecdotes about the origins of each recipe. Laughter floated back to her, and she savored it like the sweet scent of the cinnamon rolls wafting through the air. Then came the moment of truth. The MC returned to the stage, holding a gleaming trophy. And the winner is Sarah Thompson. The crowd erupted into applause, and for the first time in years, Sarah's eyes teared up not from sadness but from elation. She had done it. She had won. But her moment was abruptly interrupted as Mark stormed up to her, his face twisted in anger. This doesn't change anything, Sarah. You're still just a failing mother, he spat, venom lacing his words. The cheers of the crowd began to fade, swallowed by the tension brewing between them. Sarah felt the energy drain from her body, but one look at Emma and Jake, beaming with pride, reignited her fire. She wouldn't let his cruel words shatter her. In that moment, Sarah realized that she wasn't just winning a trophy. She was reclaiming her worth. I may have left you, Mark, but I'm finally ready to stand on my own. For my kids, for me. Her voice rang with conviction, cutting through the chaos around her. As Mark stepped back, unable to respond, Sarah's heart soared. She felt empowered, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, emerging stronger than ever. But what she didn't expect was the growing crowd around her. They were all cheering, rallying behind her. In that instant, she recognized she had struck a nerve in Cedar Ridge, and the white-hot anger that Mark usually commanded began to flicker under the weight of her victory. With the applause ringing in her ears, Sarah wondered what this newfound strength would bring next. Was this moment the start of reclaiming not just her voice but her entire life? And deeper down, could karma be ready to turn the tables on Mark in ways she had yet to discover? The brightness of victory started to fade as Sarah descended from the stage, the trophy feeling heavier with each step she took. The cheers still resonated in her ears, but Mark's words dug deeper than she expected. You're still just a failing mother. Emma and Jake rushed to her side, their faces aglow with pride, but the warmth of their love couldn't completely blanket the chill Mark had brought. They hugged her tight, their small arms wrapping around her waist like a shield. You did it, Mom, Jake exclaimed, his bright blue eyes sparkling with delight. I told everyone you'd win. Sarah chuckled, her heart swelling. Thank you, buddy. That means the world to me. She ruffled his hair, trying to shake off the remnants of Mark's bitterness. Emma chimed in, can we celebrate with ice cream? You deserve it. The suggestion sent a ripple of happiness through the crowd as Sarah watched people nod and smile, amplifying their enthusiasm. Absolutely, she said, feeling a rush of gratitude for her children. They were her greatest supporters, the light that pushed her forward. As they walked toward the fair's main area, with vibrant booths and laughter cascading around them, Sarah's gaze flickered back to where Mark stood, his jaw clenched, anger radiating off him like heat from asphalt. A knot tightened in her stomach. He wouldn't let this go. People from the fair continued to congratulate her, their smiles brightening her mood. Every praise was like a healing balm to her spirit, stitching up the wounds Mark had left over the years. Then, an unexpected voice entered her thoughts. Sarah. It was Claire, her closest friend, sprinting toward her with a wide-eyed expression. I heard you won. That's amazing. Sarah couldn't help but beam. Thank you, Claire. I'm still in shock, really. Claire lowered her voice, urgency creeping into her tone. Did you see Mark's face? He looked furious. I worry he might try something, you know how he is. The concern in her friend's eyes flickered something inside Sarah. Mark had held so much control for so long, why should she let fear dictate her now? I can handle him, she replied, surprising herself with the conviction in her voice. Claire's worried expression softened. I believe that. Just remember, you're not alone in this. We're all here for you. As they walked together, Sarah felt hope weaving through the edges of her mind. She had a chance to change things not just for herself, but for her kids, for her future. Suddenly, an idea blossomed, filling her with excitement. If she could win this competition, what else could she do? What other dreams had sat dormant for years, waiting for her to crush the doubts that had held her back? Arriving at the ice cream stand brought them all to a halt, laughter erupting again as the kids hopped in place with excitement. But Sarah's heart was still racing from the thought of what lay ahead. Mom, can I have sprinkles? Emma pleaded, her big eyes shimmering with hope. Of course, Sarah replied absent-mindedly, her mind dancing with dreams beyond the fleeting joys of this fair. There was a whole world out there waiting to be explored, filled with possibilities she hadn't dared to entertain for a long time. As she enjoyed ice cream with her children, visions of a bakery of her own materialized in her mind. What if she turned her passion into a business? What if she created a space filled with warmth and love that could become a beacon for others just like her? But it wouldn't be easy. Mark wouldn't go down without a fight. She could almost picture him scheming, ready to deflate her ambitions before they even bloomed. A shiver ran down her spine at the thought of his interference, yet a grin crept onto her face. She could already see it, a bakery where every pastry was a story of hope, sweetness, and resilience. A place fiercely protected by love and laughter. Just then, a loud crash pulled Sarah out of her reverie. She turned to see Mark marching through the crowd, red-faced and fuming. Her heart raced. Would he bring trouble again? What would he do next? The tension in the air knocked the breath from her lungs as she squared her shoulders, preparing to face whatever came, because now she had more than just a trophy. She had a purpose. Mark's footsteps echoed like thunder on the pavement as he maneuvered through the crowd, pushing past festival-goers with a wild look in his eyes. Sarah's stomach flipped as she braced herself, her heart pounding harder than before. "Mom," Jake whispered, his small hand tightening around hers. She looked down at her son, his innocence clearer than ever amidst the chaos Mark was creating. "Stay close, you two," she commanded softly, masking the fear creeping in, even as embarrassment flushed her cheeks. Mark finally stopped in front of her, a sneer cutting through his otherwise tense expression. What was this? Some sort of pathetic joke? He spat, eyes sharp like daggers. "You think winning a silly contest makes you a good mother?" Friends and strangers alike stepped away, sensing the fiery confrontation brewing. Sarah felt eyes on her, the festive buzz momentarily dulled by the palpable tension. She straightened, reminding herself of the victory she had just claimed. Those cheers were still fresh, the encouragement stronger than the poison in Mark's words. "Mark," she said, her voice surprisingly steady, "this isn't about you. It's not about proving anything. It's for them." She tilted her head toward Jake and Emma, who stood resolute beside her, unwavering companions in the maelstrom. He laughed, the sound cold and dismissive. "Is that what you tell yourself? Look how you've raised them. They're just as lost as you are." Tears threatened to sting her eyes, but she blinked them back. "I'm trying. That's more than you ever did." His face darkened, anger boiling to the surface. "You were nothing but a dreamer, Sarah. And in the end, that's all you'll ever be, a failing mother, forever trying to reach for something you're never going to grasp." The crowd stirred uncomfortably, a mixture of sympathy and shock in the air. Their whispering voices began to rise, a buzz of indignation at Mark's cruelty. But what hurt most was the twisted truth in his words. Part of her had always believed she was chasing shadows. But when she looked down at her children, both gazing up at her with pride, she felt the shadows recede. She wasn't a failure. They weren't lost. They were a family, and they were together in this moment. I might be a dreamer, Sarah said firmly, her voice rising above the noise. But I'm a determined one, and I won't let you break me. Mark stepped closer, but she held her ground. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was standing up for her kids. The crowd, now emboldened, began to murmur support. Her friends, Claire at the forefront, echoed words of encouragement, rallying around her. "Ever you go, girl, and don't let him get to you," felt like a surge of energy. "See?" Mark sneered, his facade cracking for a brief moment. "You think they'll be there when the dust settles? They'll abandon you once they see how hopeless you are." Doubt flickered through her, but it quickly transformed into a fire. "You're wrong. Love and support never abandon. That's something you wouldn't understand." Just as Mark opened his mouth to respond, Jake stepped forward, his tiny frame quaking with courage. "Leave my mom alone. She's amazing." The pure conviction in Jake's voice silenced the air. Mark faltered, taken aback by his son's defense. For a moment he seemed unsure, but instead of retreating, his anger swelled, pushing back against vulnerability, eyes darting among the crowd. "Enjoy your little celebration while it lasts," he spat before storming away, leaving a trail of tension in his wake. As Sarah watched his figure disappear into the throng, a wave of relief washed over her, washing away the remnants of his cruelty. She turned back to Emma and Jake, who were both wide-eyed and proud. "You're so brave, Mom," Emma squealed, and Sarah knelt to envelop them both in a fierce hug. Together, Sarah whispered, her voice cracking with emotion, "We're in this together." A wide, dizzying smile spread across her face as laughter bubbled up from her chest. She had confronted Mark, and despite the fear and doubt he deplanted, she stood tall. But as the crowd began to disperse, Sarah became aware that the struggle was far from over. Mark would surely retaliate. What would his next move be? The heartwarming victory felt fragile as she glanced toward the horizon. A bakery, a dream, and that mystery of his looming threat clouded her thoughts. What awaited her, the sweetness of her dreams or the bitterness of Mark's revenge? The next chapter of their story was just beginning. The festival lights twinkled above, but Sarah's heart weighed heavy beneath the glow. Emma and Jake's voices lifted her spirits, yet the unease lingered. She felt exposed like a tightrope walker with no safety net. "Mom, let us get some cotton candy," Jake said, his eyes widening with excitement, the earlier tension forgotten. Sarah smiled gently, taking his hand while stealing glances at the space Mark had just occupied. "Sure, buddy," she said, though unease tangled her stomach. "Let us get some treats." They moved through the crowd, his small fingers intertwined with hers, a tether of love amidst the chaos. Emma skipped ahead, her laughter weaving through the murmurs of festival-goers. It was a normal family moment, the kind she had dreamed of, and yet, the shadow of Mark loomed large. "Mom?" Emma turned back, her face serious. "What if Dad comes back? What if he's mad?" The innocent worry in her daughter's voice pierced Sarah's heart. "He won't," Sarah replied, though doubt slithered inside her. "And if he does, we'll face it together, just like we did today." Jake nodded, but Sarah could see in their eyes that they felt the reality of their father's dysfunction. She took a deep breath, focusing on the kaleidoscope of colors around her. The laughter, the joy, the community, they filled her with strength. Each cheer she had received earlier sparked resilience, and she would not let Mark dim that light. As they approached the vendor, the aroma of fresh popcorn tickled her senses. "3 cotton candies, please," she ordered, a giddy exhilaration bubbling up as she watched the vendor spin sugar. "Can I have the blue one?" Jake chirped. "Of course," Sarah said, handing over money, trying to push aside thoughts of Mark's denial. Each moment like these was a victory, small but significant. Turning away from the vendor, she noticed Claire walking toward them, her face beaming with pride. "I heard about what happened," Claire proclaimed, wrapping Sarah in a warm embrace. "You were incredible." "Thank you," Sarah whispered, her throat tight. "I just wanted to protect them." Claire knelt to Jake's level. "You must be so proud of your mom," she said, her voice tender. "Yeah." Jake beamed. "She's amazing. He doesn't want us to be happy. But we are." Claire's eyes widened. "That's the spirit. Sometimes our happiness is the best revolt against the people who try to bring us down." There was truth in her words, and Sarah clung to them. If only Mark could see their smiles, the joy they created, maybe he'd understand. But deep down she knew he wouldn't. He thrived on chaos. His anger was a disease, and she refused to let it infect her dreams. As the cotton candy was handed over, Sarah's heart swelled. They broke away from the vendor, her children smiling wide. Laughter erupted as they snagged bites of sticky sweet treats. It felt right, but a chill crept up her spine. Was Mark planning something? There was a darkness that loomed, something almost palpable, and the fear of a sudden disruption nagged at her. "Want to check out the petting zoo next?" Sarah suggested, steering them toward the corral of fluffy sheep and eager goats, a safe distraction. They wandered over, the upbeat chatter of kids and the soft bleats of animals filling the air. But just as she let her guard down, a figure lurked on the periphery. Mark stood at the edge of the crowd, his expression unreadable. Fury bubbled beneath the surface of his facade, and she could feel his presence like a weight. "Stay close," Sarah cautioned, her heart racing. Emma and Jake moved to her side, sensing the shift in the air. It was a familiar fear, but now it was different. Now she had allies, family, and as Mark began to approach, his intent clear in his eyes, Sarah raised her chin, standing firm. "I won't let you intimidate us anymore," she thought, taking a breath, because she fought for love, and Mark had always underestimated that. What would he say this time, and how would they respond to the storm brewing? This wouldn't end quietly, and she steeled herself for whatever lay ahead. A showdown was imminent, one that she wouldn't face alone. Sarah's breath caught as Mark hitched a confident stride toward them. His presence was a storm cloud darkening their moment. Emma squeezed her hand tightly, her little heart racing, while Jake stood his ground, eyes wide as he searched for signs of danger. "Sarah," Mark barked, his voice slicing through the festival's lively chatter. "Where do you think you're taking my kids?" Sarah's heartbeat drummed in her ears. She glanced at her children, their innocent faces unsure of how to react. This was not the man they once knew, but rather a figure of intimidation who thrived on power. "Mark, they're just having fun," she replied, finding steadiness in her voice. "You don't own them. They're happy." Mark's smile was twisted, devoid of warmth. "You think you can just erase me from their lives? I want to hear from them what they want." Every muscle in Sarah's body tensed. The festival lights felt too bright, too loud, as if the universe mocked her plight. "They want to be safe, Mark. They want to be with their mother. They don't want to go back to the chaos. Is that right, kids?" He turned toward Emma and Jake, his eyes narrowed with feigned indifference. "Your mom is a great storyteller. Isn't she? Don't you miss our times together?" Emma faltered, her innocence caught in a web of conflicting emotions. We like it here, Dad. We're happy with Mom." Mark's expression twisted, his anger sparking like a match in a fire. "You're making a big mistake, Sarah. I won't let you poison their minds. How long do you think you can keep them from seeing the truth?" Sarah felt the ground beneath her shift as his words wrapped around her, tightening like a vice. Instinctively, she pulled her kids closer, shielding them from the weight of his presence. "This isn't about manipulation. This is about love and safety," she insisted, each word laced with desperation. Mark took a step closer, the crowd blurring around them. "Love? You call this love? Protecting them from their own father?" The tension hung in the air, thick and suffocating. The laughter and festivities of the festival faded into mere background noise. It was as if time stood still, leaving only Sarah's fierce determination. But just as she prepared for the battle ahead, a voice broke through the thick tension. "Hey, Mark!" Claire appeared, her presence bright and fierce, as if she had sensed the storm brewing. "You need to step back. This is not the place for this." Mark's eyes shifted to Claire, who stood shoulder to shoulder with Sarah now, ready to defend. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, his composure cracking slightly. Claire's unwavering stance confirmed what Sarah already knew. She was not alone. "I came to watch my friend and her kids enjoy the festival," Claire replied coolly. "I won't let you bully them here." The tension cracked like a twig underfoot. Mark's anger flickered, a candle threatening to extinguish in a downpour of voices. For a fleeting moment it felt like they had the upper hand. "Let us go, kids," Sarah said, her voice soft but resolute, pulling them with her toward the vibrant crowd. "We don't need to engage with him. We can keep having fun. Okay?" "Okay, Mom," Jake said, relief washing over his small face as they began to move away, Emma glancing back to watch her father's face twist into something dark and desperate. As they joined the thrumming crowd, feeling the cheerful chaos of the festival wrap around them like a warm blanket, Sarah couldn't shake the tension of Marcus' fury from her mind. His words echoed. "This wasn't over, not by a long shot. We'll build our happiness, one we. Together?" she murmured to her two kids, a mix of reassurance and determination flowing through her. "Yeah. Let us go see the animals," Emma cheered, pulling ahead, Jake following closely behind. But as Sarah turned to catch one last glimpse of Mark, his gaze pierced through the sea of people. It was a reminder of the battle lurking just beneath their joyful facade. An animal encounter can be fun, she told herself, by trying to push away the dread. But the shadows of doubt still loomed, and the taste of fear lingered. And as the sounds of laughter and joy surrounded them, Sarah started to wonder, how far would he go to reclaim his place in their lives? And was the determination of love enough to shield them from the storm yet to come? The aroma of caramel popcorn and roasted corn drifted through the air, mingling with the laughter of children and vibrant music. For a moment, Sarah breathed in that sweet scent like a lifeline. She watched Emma and Jake dart ahead, their laughter ringing out like a bell, filling her heart with the joy she fought to maintain. But behind that joy, shadows crept in. Marcus' words echoed in her head, a haunting refrain that would not let her rest. She forced a smile, but it felt heavy, like a mask she wore to shield her children from the reality lurking just a heartbeat away. "Let us see the petting zoo," Emma shouted, her eyes sparkling with excitement as she tugged at Sarah's hand. Jake followed suit, his small face alight with enthusiasm. Sarah nodded, praying the animals would distract them from the chaos swirling in her mind. They made their way to the zoo area, the sounds of bleating goats and clucking chickens drawing them in like a magnet. What was once a refuge now felt tinged with anxiety. The thought of Marcus' return lay like a storm cloud above them. "Look, Mom, can I pet the goat?" Jake exclaimed, bouncing on his heels. "Of course, sweetie," Sarah replied, kneeling beside him as they approached the small pen. The goat, with its sleek coat and gentle eyes, nibbled on hay, oblivious to the turmoil in her heart. As they petted the goat, for a brief moment, the joy of simple pleasures lit a spark in Sarah. Emma giggled, her laughter melting some of the ice that had settled in Sarah's chest. She watched her children's faces, their innocence shining brightly. How could one man hold so much power over their happiness? But then, she felt it a shiver down her spine. Mark. She didn't need to see him to sense his presence. It was like the steel rod of anxiety that pierced through her chest whenever he walked into a room. "Over there," Emma said, pointing to a nearby stall filled with fuzzy chicks. The kids rushed over, leaving Sarah momentarily behind. With each step she took, her resolve bubbled underneath her skin. This was their moment of joy, and she refused to let him steal it away. As she approached, she spotted Claire coming up from the other side. Relief washed over her like the cool breeze fluttering the leaves nearby. Claire caught her eye and offered a reassuring nod, standing guard against any potential storm. "I'll keep an eye out," Claire said softly as they reached the chicks. "Have fun." I'll be here if he comes back. Thank you, Sarah whispered, the sincerity of her appreciation flowing deep. She focused on the children, immersing herself in the warmth of their laughter, even as her mind lingered on the precarious situation they faced. Suddenly, a loud voice broke their moment, a hollow, sneering shout that sliced through the joyous noise of the festival. Sarah, you think hiding behind friends will protect you? You know the truth, and so do they. The laughter stopped, giving way to an unbearable stillness as heads turned towards Mark. Sarah's heart sank. She felt exposed, a deer caught in headlights. Mom? Jake's voice trembled, looking back at her, uncertainty flooding his features. Emma's wide eyes mirrored his fear. Stay close, Sarah whispered, wrapping an arm around each child. The warm safety of the crowd felt distant as she faced Mark's steady approach. He paced forward, a predator honing in on his prey, fueled by anger and desperation. The laughter of the festival felt like a cruel contrast to the tension that writhed between them. No, not here, Sarah breathed, seeking strength in the connection with her children. But Mark's voice rang loud and clear, fueled by an ego that refused to falter. I will not stop until you realize the truth. You can't just erase me. As he advanced, the atmosphere thickened, the air electric with potential bombshells. Clenching tightly to Emma and Jake, Sarah stood her ground, her heart racing. And then something in her shifted. Fear gave way to something stronger, a determination born from a decade of battling this man. You can't control us anymore, Mark. Not now, not ever. The crowd began to murmur, whispers wrapping around them like tendrils of support. Sarah could feel it, the presence of her allies bolstering her. Just then, a voice broke through the clamor. What is going on here? A tall security officer approached, eyes narrowing in on Mark. For a fleeting moment, Sarah's heart fluttered. Maybe this was the turning point, the moment where chaos would give way to protection, where the power imbalance would finally shift. But as she pulled her kids closer, she realized she couldn't let fear dictate her. I will protect my family, no matter the cost, she thought fiercely. Little did she know this was just the beginning of the showdown that would change everything for her family. Would the festival turn into a battleground? Or could this be the moment they took back their lives for good? The answer loomed on the horizon, and Sarah felt the winds of change swirling all around them. The tension hung heavy in the air as eyes turned towards Sarah and Mark. The moment felt frozen, like time itself was holding its breath. Sarah's hands tightened around Jake and Emma, their little bodies still and fragile against the backdrop of chaos. Mark's face twisted with contempt as he glared at the security guard, his arrogance shining through. This doesn't concern you, he spat, the venom in his voice palpable. I'm merely trying to help my wife see reason. Behind Sarah, she could hear the murmur of the crowd, curious and caught up in the unfolding drama. Some faces revealed shock, others sympathy. But one thing was clear. They all felt the gravity of the scene. Your wife, a nearby onlooker exclaimed incredulously. You don't get to make that claim anymore. As if on cue, the officer stepped closer, his presence steady and commanding. I need you to step back, sir. You're making people uncomfortable. Comfortable? Mark laughed, a cold sound devoid of warmth. Do you have any idea what's truly going on? This pathetic charade is just that, an act. Sarah's heart raced, but within her surged a wave of desperate courage. Enough, she shouted, her voice cutting through Mark's vitriol like a knife. You don't get to rewrite the narrative. You're not my husband anymore, and you never will be again. The crowd shifted, the murmur growing louder, a collective gasp echoing the strength of her words. Sarah felt empowered, alive in her truth. For 10 years she had been a puppet in Mark's cruel game. But now she was in control. Mark's eyes narrowed, and in that moment, he transformed from relentless pursuer to cornered animal. You'll regret this, he hissed, his voice low and threatened. You cannot escape me. With a swift motion, the security officer intervened, stepping between them like a shield. That's enough. I'm calling for backup. You need to leave, sir. Mark's face twisted into a sneer as he took a step back, but Sarah stood firm. Beside her, Claire stood tall, her presence bolstering Sarah's strength. It felt as if the tide had shifted, the wind blowing in a new, hopeful direction. "Can we go, Mom?" Jake whispered, his little voice trembling. Emma clutched his hand, her wide eyes searching Sarah's for assurance. "Yes, my loves. We're leaving," Sarah said, pulling them closer. The security officer gestured towards the festival exit. "This way. We'll ensure you leave safely." As they moved away from the scene, Sarah took a deep breath, relief mingling with lingering anxiety. The sweet smell of popcorn, which had once been comforting, now struck her as bittersweet. Could the festival atmosphere ever feel joyous again? But with each step away from Mark, a tiny part of her began to heal. She had chosen this path. She was standing up for herself and for her children. Once they were safely away from the crowd, Sarah knelt down to meet her children's worried expressions. "You both are so brave. I'm proud of you," she said, her voice softening under the weight of her emotions. "You really told him." "Mom," Emma said, her voice filled with admiration. "You were so strong, like a superhero." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. "I'm just a mom trying to protect her kids." Little did she know, Mark's shadow wouldn't fade so easily. As they turned to leave, a text buzzed in her pocket, an unexpected reminder that the battle was far from over. What more could he do to threaten their peace? "Let us get some ice cream," she suggested, trying to shift the mood. But in the quiet corners of her mind, urgency remained. This might have been one battle won, but the war was only just beginning. What awaited them in the days to come? Would Sarah discover the secret that Mark had kept hidden all along? One that could change everything? As they walked, Sarah's mind raced, the cheerful sounds of the festival muffled around them. She kept an arm wrapped around Emma, Jake holding tightly to the other. The world moved on, families laughing, kids chasing each other with balloons. But for Sarah, everything felt tinted with gray. Once they reached the bright lights of the ice cream stand, she tried to shake off the darkness. "What flavors do you want?" she asked, forcing a smile. Their eyes lit up at the choices, and for a moment, she felt a flicker of joy. "Can I have the mint chocolate chip?" Jake asked, his voice brimming with excitement. "And Emma wants strawberry, right?" "Yep." Emma nodded eagerly, her excitement infectious. Just as they stepped up to the counter, Sarah's phone buzzed again, as if it sensed her need for solidarity. She glanced down at the screen, and her heart dropped. "Sarah, we need to talk," the message read. It was Mark. "Mom, ice cream," Emma called, her eyes wide, demanding attention. "Just a second, sweetie," Sarah replied, her voice slightly strained. She couldn't let Mark ruin this moment, nor could she afford to ignore his warning. "Jake, why don't you and Emma choose your cones? I'll be right there." As she stepped a few paces away from her children, Sarah hesitated. Every instinct urged her to delete the message and focus on her kids. But the tangled emotions within her wouldn't let go. What could he possibly have to say that wasn't soaked in dominance and manipulation? Taking a deep breath, she opened the message. "Call me. I'll be waiting." Her heart raced at the unyielding sense of threat behind those words. He wouldn't just let her go, would he? The memories of his angry outbursts and cutting remarks rushed back, materializing in her mind like a dark cloud. This was not over. "Mom?" Jake's voice jolted her back to the moment. He stood there, his tiny face scrunched with worry. "Are you okay?" Sarah forced a smile, though it felt brittle. "Of course, honey. Just a little tired. Ice cream will help." She returned to the stand, and they each picked their flavors. As she handed the server their money, ice cream cones in hand, Sarah felt the weight of her decisions settling like a heavy cloak on her shoulders. Could she really protect them? They walked over to a nearby bench, sitting down together. Jake and Emma dove into their ice cream with glee, momentarily distracted from the chaos that had just unfolded. Sarah forced herself to enjoy their laughter, their happiness becoming her lifeline. But her heart was not in it. Suddenly, she noticed Claire approaching, a concerned expression etched on her face. "Are you all right?" she asked, taking a seat beside them. Just trying to shake off a rough moment, Sarah replied, her voice soft. Claire's gaze flickered to the kids, then back to Sarah. You were amazing back there. Really. Thanks. But Sarah looked down at her melting ice cream, her thoughts spiraling again. He one tea stop. Yes, like a shadow I can't shake off. I know it feels that way. But remember, you're not alone in this. Claire took her hand, squeezing it tight. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows over the park, an idea began to form in Sarah's mind. If Mark wanted a fight, she'd be ready. She had allies now. Together, they could expose the truth, and perhaps that truth could be the very weapon she needed. Tomorrow we start fighting back, Sarah said firmly, her voice steady. Claire looked at her with newfound strength. I'm in whatever you need. The moment hung heavy, but now it held a promise of strength and hope. Perhaps she could uncover the secret Mark had been hiding and take control of her narrative for good. But was she prepared for the consequences of what she might find? Would knowing the truth set her free, or would it plunge her into darkness? With the ice cream dripping slowly down the sides of their cones, Sarah felt a sense of determination swelling inside her. Clara's support, her children's joy, and the vibrant festival atmosphere reminded her that she wasn't fighting alone anymore. Tomorrow, she would navigate the storm, armed not just with courage, but with allies who cared. After the fair, I'll look for a lawyer, she thought, the idea bringing her a sense of calm. Renewed purpose lit her eyes, and for the first time in a long while, she felt her fears dim, overshadowed by a fierce desire for change. Hey kids, how about we check out the rides after we finish our ice cream? She proposed, trying to shift the mood to one of joy and adventure. Yeah. Can we go on the Ferris wheel? Emma cheered, her face bright with excitement. Only if we can take a selfie at the top, Jake added, grinning from ear to ear. Laughing, she ruffled their hair. Deal. Let us finish these cones, and then we'll conquer that ride. The trio dove into their ice cream while Claire smiled knowingly. She was watching Sarah, admiration shining in her eyes. You really are an incredible mom, you know that? Sarah's heart swelled at the compliment. It's easier when I have amazing kids and friends like you by my side. After their ice cream, they raced to the Ferris wheel, the colorful lights of the fair illuminating the night sky. Up in the air, surrounded by the excitement of the fair, Sarah held her breath as they reached the top. With the world sprawling beneath them, she took a deep breath, feeling the wind whip through her hair and brush against her cheeks. Look at the city, Emma squealed, pointing at the horizon, sparkling under the stars. Isn't it beautiful? Sarah replied, the magic of the moment washing over her. Just like you too. A triumphant smile spread across her face. In that moment, she realized she had transformed. She was no longer a woman hiding from shadows. She was a mother rallying for her children, ready to face whatever storm Mark brought next. When they stepped off the Ferris wheel, Claire tousled her hair like a sister. You handling this tomorrow? We can draft some plans tonight if you want. Absolutely, Sarah agreed, feeling the warmth of camaraderie. We'll brainstorm what to do next. Mark may think he can intimidate us, but he's in for a real wake-up call. They returned to their seats at the fair, laughter flowing freely, and the community surrounding them felt like armor against the oncoming tide. Sarah laughed and shared stories, but all the while, her mind was racing towards the future, the upcoming confrontation with Mark, and untangling the truth he'd hidden for so long. As they wrapped things up for the night and made their way home, Emma snuggled close, and Jake rested his head against her shoulder. It was a simple moment, but it filled her with that radiant glow she had been searching for. Later that night, as Sarah tucked her kids into bed, she felt grateful. She kissed their foreheads softly, listening to the familiar sound of their sleepy breaths. She slipped into her own bed with a heart filled with hope, the shadows of doubt shrinking as the stars twinkled outside her window. With the dawn of a new day, Sarah woke up with a sense of fierce resolve. The email she'd been meaning to send to the lawyer was waiting patiently on her laptop. She jumped out of bed, determined to take the first steps into a brighter future, one that was entirely her own. As the sun rose over Cedar Ridge, Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the new day wrap around her. Today was the day she would reclaim everything Mark had tried to steal from her. She was ready to fight with all she had. With every moment that passed, Sarah prepared herself for the confrontation, ready for the truth to surface. And deep down, she knew that whatever happened next wouldn't just be about Mark. It would be about all the mothers, fathers, and families who felt trapped in similar situations. As she clicked send on that email, a sense of clarity flooded over her. This was it, the beginning of a new chapter. She would be the author of her own story, and she would write it with heart and strength, emerging from the shadows into a love-filled life. And just when she thought she had a handle on things, another message chimed in Mark's signature tone, grabbing her attention like a jolt of electricity. She braced herself, sensing the storm brewing on the horizon. But with newfound purpose, she began to type, "I'm ready." Now, she needed the support of those who truly believed in her. She would brave whatever storm was coming because she had finally embraced the truth. Love and resilience were mightier than fear. And now, it was time for the world to witness a mother's indomitable spirit. This is your chance to be part of Sarah's journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Dive deeper into the drama, and follow the twists and turns of Sarah's fight. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. What did Sarah's journey mean to you? Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation and the importance of standing strong against adversity. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.